Hi there. You know, I've only been cooking for the past few years, and most of my life I would have told you I couldn't cook to save my life. Ask my mom, and she'll tell you a story of the time I supposedly burned spaghetti while it was still boiling in the pot. Now, it's easy to think boiling pasta is such a basic skill that anyone can do it, but here in the United States, it's assumed there are only two things to know about making pasta: boil it in a pot of water, and then drown it in sauce. But for those of us who may be on a low budget, there comes a time when we run out of pasta sauce and we're stuck with boiled pasta until we can afford to buy a jar of sauce. And so, because there are a lot of people in this situation, here are a few basic tips on how to boil a good pot of spaghetti. In addition, we'll also be preparing a dish to help solve the problem of what to do with all of those boxes of pasta when you're out of sauce and you're on a low budget. We'll be making a very simple and basic pasta dish that's a delicacy in Italy: pasta aglio e olio. That translates to pasta with garlic and oil, and that's all we need for this dish: some cooked spaghetti, 4 cloves of garlic, and olive oil.
Three items you absolutely need in your kitchen are a chef's knife, a cast iron skillet, and a stock pot for boiling water. We'll be using all three of these here, and none of these are difficult to acquire or very expensive. This is a 12-quart stock pot, and it's good for cooking about 2 pounds of spaghetti or less. You can probably make about 3 or 4 pounds of pen or shell pasta in this, but we won't be using that much here.
We begin by filling our pot with hot tap water, about 2/3 of the way full. Cover the pot before taking it to the stove so the water won't spill.
From here, we add salt to the water. There's a common saying that when cooking pasta, the water should taste like seawater, and that's actually a bit too salty. For most kitchens, a simple rule of thumb is to use about 1 teaspoon of salt for every quart. We have 8 quarts of water in this pot, and so that's a little more than 2.5 tablespoons of salt. With a little practice, you'll get to the point where you can eyeball it rather than measuring.
Now for the question of adding oil to the water. Some cooks say yes and some say no. Me, I'm a believer in no oil in the water. My reason is the oil is supposed to be there to keep the pasta from sticking. Well, that's what stirring the pasta as it cooks will do: keep it from sticking together. And after it's served, we certainly want the sauce to stick to the pasta. And a little oil in the water doesn't add any flavor to the pasta, so I say no oil in the water.
We cover the pot. And set the temperature to about 3/4 high. This is an electric stove, and you never want to turn an electric stove up all the way. That's because the burner on an electric stove top can reach as high as 1200 degrees or more, and that's enough to warp a steel pan or even a cast iron pan. So even if the recipe calls for heating the stove top on high, with an electric stove we should never turn it up to more than 3/4. That's still good enough to bring this pot to a good roiling boil in about 20 to 30 minutes.
While the water is boiling, we can prepare for after the pasta is cooked by thinly slicing about 4 cloves of garlic. In this case, these happen to be 2 really big cloves of garlic.
When cooking a long pasta like spaghetti, we often see people breaking it in half before adding it to the water. There's no point in this because there's plenty of room in this big pot to cook the spaghetti as it is, with nice long strands to slurp. So skip snapping it in half.
The water is at a good rolling boil. We simply place the spaghetti into the water and gently stir it in. pasta immediately begins to soften as we stir, so it will be completely covered by the water. At this point, we can cover the pot to bring the water back to a boil, but don't leave the pot covered for more than a minute, or else you might see a boil over. And at this point, we place a cast iron pan on the second burner and turn it up to low-medium heat. Cast iron heats up very slowly, so placing it on the burner now, while the pasta is cooking, will give it plenty of time to gradually heat up the entire pan and make it hot enough for cooking. Also, the temperature must be no more than low to medium heat on your stovetop burner. After uncovering the pot, it's time to keep stirring it. The pasta has to be stirred constantly, taking breaks of no more than a few seconds so we can be sure the pasta doesn't stick. Don't bother trying to follow the time given on the package. Not all pasta can be pulled like spaghetti, and with all pasta, after a few minutes, we have to start tasting it to know when it's done.
About another minute.
When the pasta is soft and not stiff, but it still has a bit of a chew to it, we know it's al dente.
Do you believe this is done?
Drain the pasta into a colander, and after draining, do not rinse off the pasta. Now that the pasta is ready, it's time to put our cast iron skillet into action. The pan has been heated to the correct temperature, so now we coat the surface of the pan with olive oil and begin sautéing the sliced garlic. We only want to fry the garlic pieces until they just begin to brown, and this only takes a couple of minutes. Add a dash of red pepper flakes and mix it in. And now we add the pasta to the pan and toss it all together to coat the pasta with olive oil. Again, this only takes a couple of minutes. Finally, add a dash of parsley and mix it all together. It only takes a few minutes to completely prepare the cooked spaghetti. And we'll indulge with a pat of butter on the top. We top it with some grated Parmesan cheese, and our spaghetti Aglio e Olio is ready to serve.
You'd think frying the garlic would make the garlic pieces taste like incredibly strong garlic, but that's not what happens here. It's garlic with a nutty flavor because it's absorbed the oil and starch from the pasta. You really need to give this a try. As far as basic cooking skills go, this is one of the most essential. And as you can see, it's really not difficult at all. Best of all, the results are worth it, as it'll give you a lifetime of inexpensive meals, ranging from boxed mac and cheese all the way to finely cooked pasta. And whether you're eating by yourself late at night or serving a lavish dinner party, there are few dishes more delicious than a plate of well-cooked pasta aglio olio.
Thank you for watching.